Marcus Johnson wiped sweat from his brow as he tightened the final bolt on Mrs. Pearson's leaky sink. At 33, his hands were already calloused from years of handyman work, a far cry from the football scholarship that had once promised him a different life. The buzz of his phone interrupted his thoughts. Another cancellation. That was the third this week, and rent was due in 10 days. "All fixed, Mrs. Pearson," he called out, washing his hands in the newly repaired sink. The elderly woman handed him $30, 10 less than they'd agreed upon. "Times are tough, dear," she explained with an apologetic smile. Marcus nodded, not mentioning that times were tough for him too. He packed his tools methodically, the weight of them familiar in his worn leather bag. The afternoon sun beat down as he cut through West Side Park to his next job. The laughter of children playing normally brought him peace. But today a different sound caught his attention, jeers and taunts coming from behind the concession stand. "Ghost boy. Hey, ghost boy, you deaf too?" Marcus's stride slowed. 3 boys, maybe 12 or 13, had cornered a smaller kid against the brick wall. The child's face was downturned, white blonde hair falling over eyes that refused to look up. His skin was pale as alabaster, not just Caucasian, but something different. Albinism, Marcus realized. The boy hugged a backpack to his chest like a shield. "I bet if we hit him, he turns red like normal people," one of the bullies said, shoving the boy's shoulder. Before Marcus could process his actions, he was already moving. "Hey!" His deep voice carried across the space, causing all 4 boys to freeze. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" The tallest bully recovered first. "Nothing, mister. Just talking." Marcus stopped a few feet away, setting down his tool bag deliberately. At 6'3", with shoulders broadened by years of athletic training, he knew his presence could be intimidating. He didn't want to scare the children, but he wouldn't let this continue. "Doesn't look like nothing to me." He turned to the albino boy. "You okay?" The boy nodded slightly, still clutching his backpack. Marcus focused on the bullies again. "Let me guess you think it's funny to pick on someone because they look different?" He gestured to his own dark skin. "Trust me, I know something about that." The bullies exchanged glances, suddenly uncertain. "What's your name?" Marcus asked the albino boy gently. "Elijah," came the whisper response. "Well, Elijah, I'm Marcus. Would you like me to walk you home?" Elijah nodded again, relief washing over his face. Marcus turned back to the 3 bullies. "I'm not going to tell you what happens if I see this again. I think you're smart enough to figure that out. Now, go find something better to do with your time." The boys scattered, throwing nervous glances over their shoulders as they ran. As Marcus picked up his tool bag, he noticed Elijah staring at him with pale blue eyes that squinted slightly against the sun. "Thank you," Elijah said, his voice stronger now. "You didn't have to do that." "Yeah, I did," Marcus replied. "Nobody deserves to be treated that way. Now, which direction is home?" Elijah pointed toward the north side of the park, the affluent area of town, where Marcus rarely found work. They walked in silence for a minute before the boy spoke again. "Those boys go to my school. They do that a lot. Have you told your parents? Or your teachers?" Elijah shrugged. "My mom works a lot. And when teachers make them stop, it just gets worse later." Marcus nodded, understanding the cruel mathematics of childhood. Sometimes adult intervention only multiplied the problems. "It's because I have to wear hats and sunscreen all the time. And my eyes are bad in bright light. And I'm..." Elijah gestured to himself. "Different." Marcus finished for him. "Being different isn't bad. Elijah, some of the best people I've known were different. Sometimes different just means special. That's what my mom says." Elijah kicked a stone along the path. "But she has to say that." They crossed into the neighborhood of sprawling lawns and tasteful landscaping. Marcus felt instantly out of place in his work clothes, carrying his battered tool bag. A patrol car cruised by slowly, the officer inside eyeing them with undisguised suspicion. Marcus kept his expression neutral, painfully aware of how this looked. A large black man walking with a small white child in an affluent neighborhood. "That's my house," Elijah said, pointing to a modern glass and stone structure that made Marcus's tiny apartment seem even smaller in his mind. As they approached the gate, A security intercom buzzed. "Elijah, is that you?" A woman's voice, crisp and concerned. "It's me, Mom. I'm with my friend Marcus. He helped me." The gate slid open without further questions, which surprised Marcus. The front door opened as they approached, revealing a slender woman with auburn hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wore a simple blouse and jeans that Marcus suspected cost more than his weekly earnings. "Elijah, you're late." "I was worried." Her eyes moved from her son to Marcus, curiosity rather than suspicion in her gaze. Some boys were being mean again. Marcus made them stop. The woman's expression softened as she extended her hand. "Thank you. I'm Diana Reed, Elijah's mother." "Marcus Johnson." "It was no problem, really." "Mom, can Marcus stay for dinner?" Elijah asked suddenly. Both adults looked surprised by the request. "I appreciate the offer," Marcus said quickly, "but I have another job across town." "Another time, perhaps?" Diana suggested. "I'd like to properly thank you." Marcus smiled politely but shook his head. "Really, it's fine. Any decent person would have done the same." He turned to Elijah. "Take care, buddy. Remember what I said about being different." As Marcus walked away, he felt Elijah's eyes on his back. He didn't belong in this world of security gates and sprawling homes. By the time he reached the bus stop, he'd already filed the encounter away as a one-time good deed. He couldn't have been more wrong. 3 days later, Marcus was replacing rotted boards on the community center steps when a familiar voice called his name. He turned to see Elijah approaching, this time wearing a wide-brimmed hat and long sleeves despite the warm weather. "Hey there." Marcus smiled, genuinely pleased to see the boy. "No trouble today, I hope?" "Nope. Mom drove me to school this week." Elijah peered at Marcus's work. "What are you doing?" "Fixing these steps before someone gets hurt. Wood rots if it's not treated properly." Elijah watched with fascination as Marcus measured and cut a new board. "Can I help?" Marcus hesitated, then handed Elijah a small block of sandpaper. "Sure. Smooth down this edge, but be careful of splinters." For the next hour, they worked together in comfortable conversation. Marcus learned that Elijah was 11, gifted in mathematics, and passionate about astronomy. Despite his poor eyesight, a common challenge with albinism, he'd memorized constellation patterns and could describe them in vivid detail. "The stars don't hurt my eyes," Elijah explained, "and you can see them better when everything else is dark." In turn, Marcus shared stories from his college football days, carefully omitting the knee injury that had ended his potential career. He described growing up with 4 siblings in a 2-bedroom apartment, making Elijah laugh with tales of bathroom scheduling conflicts and creative dinners when money was tight. When they finished the steps, Marcus was surprised by how much time had passed. "I've got to get to my next job," he said, packing up his tools. "Can I come see you again?" Elijah asked, vulnerability playing in his voice. Marcus paused. "Tell you what, I'm usually here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If your mom says it's okay, you can stop by." What began as a chance encounter evolved into routine. Twice a week, Elijah would appear at the community center, sometimes helping with small tasks, other times just talking while Marcus worked. Marcus found himself looking forward to these visits, impressed by the boy's intelligence and resilience. Diana Reed remained a distant figure, a name mentioned in Elijah's stories, the woman who sent her driver collect her son promptly at 5:30. Marcus had glimpsed the sleek black car several times, but had made himself scarce, uncomfortable with the inevitable questions about his relationship with Elijah. The community noticed their friendship. Most found it endearing, the handyman mentoring a lonely child. But others whispered, their suspicions both racist and unfounded. Marcus ignored them. He'd lived with prejudice his entire life. It wouldn't stop him from being kind to a child who needed a friend. By the 4th week of their friendship, Marcus had learned more about Elijah's life. His father had left when he was 3, unable to handle both Diana's intense work commitments and a child with special needs. There were nannies and housekeepers, private tutors, and specialist doctors. Material comfort, but emotional isolation. On a humid Thursday afternoon, Elijah arrived at the community center in visible distress, his pale cheeks flushed with emotion. "They're having a pool party," he said without preamble. "The whole class." and they invited me. Marcus set down his paint roller. That's good, right? Elijah shook his head miserably. They only did it because the teacher made them. And I can't even swim much because of sun. Mom says I need special permission and extra sunscreen, and he trailed off, blinking rapidly. Hey, Marcus said gently. It's okay to be upset. I just want to be normal, Elijah whispered, like everyone else. Marcus crouched down to eye level with the boy. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Normal is just a setting on a washing machine. That earned a small smile. Everyone's fighting some battle others can't see. Even you? Especially me. Marcus hesitated, then decided to share what he usually kept private. See, I had a full scholarship to play football. I was going to be the first in my family to finish college. Then I blew out my knee senior year, lost my scholarship, had to drop out, had to rebuild my whole life. Elijah's eyes widened. What did you do? I grieve what I lost. Then I found something new. Turns out I'm pretty good with my hands. Marcus flexes fingers. Different path than I planned, but it's still my path. Do you ever wish things had been different? Sometimes, Marcus admitted, but wishing doesn't change reality. Better to find the good in what is. Elijah considered this, then nodded slowly. I'm going to the party, he decided, even if I have to sit under an umbrella the whole time. Marcus grinned. That's the spirit. The annual community picnic transformed the park into a festival of grills, games, and gatherings. Marcus had volunteered to handle maintenance, ensuring that the event ran smoothly. He was repairing a sticking bathroom door when he heard the commotion. Following the noise, he found a crowd gathered near the lake's edge. Through gaps between onlookers, he spotted Elijah surrounded by a group of boys, the same ones from their first meeting, plus several others. They had taken his hat and were playing keep away, tossing it over Elijah's head as he jumped futilely to retrieve it. Look at the ghost boy dance, one taunted. Another flicked water from the lake toward Elijah, who flinched back in panic. His special sunscreen might wash off, they jeered. Marcus pushed through the crowd. That's enough. The boys froze. One dropped the hat, which Marcus retrieved and handed back to Elijah. The boy's face was red with humiliation, his pale eyes brimming with tears. Are you okay? Marcus asked quietly. Before Elijah could answer, a man stepped forward, well-dressed, with a confident stance of someone accustomed to authority. What's going on here? Who are you to be touching my son's things? Marcus straightened. Your son and his friends were bullying this boy, taking his hat, which he needs for his condition. The man scoffed. Boys play rough. It's what they do. He turned to the other parents who had gathered. A bit oversensitive, don't you think? Making a scene over nothing. A woman nodded. That Reed boy has always been odd. Special treatment everywhere. Marcus felt his temper flare. His name is Elijah, and he has albinism, not a character flaw. Your kids were being cruel, plain and simple. And who are you exactly? Asked another parent, her gaze pointedly moving from Marcus's work clothes to Elijah's designer outfit. The implication was clear. What business did someone like him have with someone like Elijah? He's my friend, Elijah said, his voice small but defiant. The first man snorted. Well, your friend should mind his own business. Come on, boys. There are better games to play. As the group dispersed, Marcus heard the muttered comments. Strange man hanging around children. Someone should call security. That Reed woman is never around anyway. Marcus knelt beside Elijah. Don't listen to them, he said firmly. I'm used to it, Elijah replied, and the resignation in his young voice broke something in Marcus's heart. You shouldn't have to be. A commotion at the edge of the crowd drew their attention. Diana Reed had arrived, effortlessly parting the onlookers in a way that only confidence and social standing could achieve. Elijah? She hurried toward them, concern etched on her face. My assistant just called. What happened? Before either could explain, the father of one of the bullies approached. Mrs. Reed, you might want to be more careful about who you allow around your son. This person was causing a scene. Diana's gaze flicked between the man and Marcus, who had risen to his feet. Mom, Elijah said urgently, "Marcus was helping me. Those boys took my hat and were saying mean things." He made them stop. Understanding dawned in Diana's eyes. She turned to the other parent with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you for your concern, Mr. Daniels. I always appreciate when people look out for my son's well-being, though I wonder where this concern was when your chase was tormenting him." Mr. Daniels faltered. "Boys will be." "If you finish that sentence with boys, I swear to God." Diana cut him off, her voice low but intense. "My son deserves respect, as does anyone who stands up for him." She took Elijah's hand. "Come on, sweetheart. I think we've had enough excitement for one day." To Marcus's surprise, she turned to him next. "Mr. Johnson, isn't it? Would you join us for dinner? I believe we have a rain check to honor." Aware of the staring crowd, Marcus nodded. "I'd be honored, Ms. Reed." The Reed home was even more impressive inside than out. Minimalist but warm, with art that Marcus suspected cost more than his annual income, still in his work clothes. He felt acutely out of place. Diana led them to a spacious kitchen, where she moved with surprising domesticity. "I hope you like pasta. It's one of the few things I can make without disaster." "Mom's terrible at cooking," Elijah stage whispered, "but she makes good spaghetti." Marcus smiled. "Spaghetti sounds perfect." Diana poured herself a glass of wine and offered Marcus one, which he declined. "Water is fine, thank you." As she prepared the meal, Diana spoke casually. "So, Marcus, Elijah tells me you become friends over the past few weeks." "Yes, ma'am. He's a bright kid, good company." "And you're a handyman for the community center?" "Among other places. I do independent contracting, plumbing, carpentry, electrical work, whatever people need." Diana nodded, seemingly satisfied with his straightforward answer. "And before that?" Marcus hesitated. "College. Southeast State, on a football scholarship. Didn't finish." "Engineering, right?" Elijah piped up. "You told me you were studying engineering." Diana's eyebrows rose slightly. "Impressive. What happened?" "Knee injury. Lost a scholarship. Couldn't afford to continue." Dinner progressed with surprisingly easy conversation. Diana was intelligent and unpretentious, genuinely interested in Marcus's perspectives. She spoke candidly about the challenges of raising a child with albinism, of fighting for accommodations in schools, of managing both motherhood and her position as CEO of a technology company she'd built from scratch. "Reed Innovations," Marcus realized aloud. "You're that Diana Reed?" She smiled. "Guilty as charged. Though in most circles, I'm just Elijah's mom, which suits me fine." After dinner, Elijah proudly showed Marcus his telescope, a professional-grade instrument, set up in a small observatory built onto the house's roof. As the boy chattered excitedly about celestial bodies, Diana stood beside Marcus. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Not just for today. Elijah's mentioned you several times. You've been kind to him when many haven't." Marcus shrugged. "He's a good kid. Makes it easy. Nevertheless, it means more than you know." Later, as Diana's driver prepared to take Marcus home, she handed him a business card. "If you ever need anything, please call. My personal number is on the back." Marcus pocketed the card with a nod, never expecting to use it. 2 weeks later, Marcus sat on his bed, staring at an eviction notice. His apartment building had been sold to developers. Residents had 60 days to vacate. With rents skyrocketing throughout the city, finding an affordable place seemed impossible. To compound matters, 3 more clients had canceled that week. The community whispers had spread insinuations about his friendship with Elijah, suspicions about his character. Mrs. Pearson had actually asked if he'd consider working while she wasn't home, as if his presence made her uncomfortable. "Perfect," Marcus muttered, tossing the notice aside. At 33, he'd expected to be established, secure. Instead, he was facing homelessness and unemployment simultaneously. His phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Coming to the center tomorrow?" Marcus replied affirmatively. Whatever his problems, he wouldn't disappoint the boy. The following day, Elijah found Marcus replacing fluorescent tubes in the community center hallway. "You look tired," the boy observed with characteristic directness. "Just busy," Marcus lied, forcing a smile. "How was school?" As Elijah launched into a story about his science project, Marcus noticed Diana, Reed watching from the entrance. She approached after Elijah finished his tale. "Marcus," she greeted him warmly, "I hope you don't mind the intrusion. I thought I'd pick Elijah up myself today." There was something assessing in her gaze that made Marcus uneasy. Before he could respond, the community center director walked by, doing a double take at the sight of Diana. "Mrs. Reed, what an unexpected pleasure. I'm Arthur Mencken, center director." He thrust out his hand, which Diana shook politely. "I've heard wonderful things about your facility, Mr. Mencken. Please call me Arthur. Are you considering a donation? We'd be honored to." "Actually," Diana interrupted smoothly, "I came to speak with Marcus. Private matter." Mencken blinked, visibly recalibrating. "Johnson? Of course, of course. Take all the time you need. My office is available if you like privacy." When Mencken retreated, Diana turned back to Marcus. "Sorry about that. Happens everywhere I go." "No problem," Marcus replied, wondering what this private matter could be. Diana glanced at her son. "Elijah, would you mind giving us a moment? I believe there's a chess club meeting in the recreation room." Once Elijah was out of earshot, Diana's demeanor changed subtly, still friendly but more businesslike. "I'll be direct, Marcus. I've been hearing concerning things about your situation here." Marcus stiffened. "What things exactly?" "That certain clients have been canceling. That there have been implications about your character." Her expression hardened slightly. "Implications I find both insulting and transparently motivated by prejudice." Marcus didn't know how to respond. He'd dealt with such situations his entire life, but having them named so directly by someone in Diana's position was disarming. "Additionally," she continued, "my sources tell me your apartment building has been sold for redevelopment." Now Marcus was truly stunned. "Your sources?" Diana had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I had you vetted when Elijah first mentioned your friendship. Standard procedure for anyone in my son's life. I hope you understand." "Not sure I do, actually," Marcus said, annoyance creeping into his voice. "That's pretty invasive." "You're right," Diana conceded, "and I apologize. But I hope you'll understand a mother's caution, especially given Elijah's vulnerability." Marcus nodded reluctantly. He couldn't argue with that. "In any case," Diana continued, "I have a proposition for you. Reed Innovations is launching a new community development initiative. We're rehabilitating properties in underserved areas, creating affordable housing and job training centers. I need someone with both technical skills and community awareness to help oversee the construction aspects." Marcus frowned. "And you're offering this to me? Why?" "Because you're qualified. Because you've shown character and integrity. And yes, because you've been kind to my son." Diana met his gaze directly. "The position comes with training, certification opportunities, and housing in one of our completed developments. Starting salary is $85,000. The figure made Marcus's head swim. It was more than triple his current earnings. "This isn't charity," Diana added, reading his expression. "I don't make business decisions based on sentiment. This is an investment in someone I believe will bring value to my company." Pride war with practicality in Marcus's mind. "I appreciate the offer, Ms. Reed, but I don't want a position created just for me." "It wasn't. The position exists. I'm simply offering it to you first." She handed him a folder. "Here's all the information. Think about it." Marcus took the folder but didn't open it. "I'll consider it." Diana smiled slightly. "That's all I ask." She turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. This community center's board is considering renovations next year. I've just agreed to fund them with the stipulation that you be hired as the project consultant." Before Marcus could respond, Diana walked away to collect Elijah, leaving him speechless. That night, Marcus sat in his sparse apartment, the folder open before him. The opportunity was legitimate. the company respected. Yet something held him back a lifetime of being told he didn't belong in such spaces, that opportunities like this weren't meant for people like him. His phone rang. Elijah's name appeared on the screen. "Hey, buddy. Everything okay?" "Mom told me about the job." Elijah said without preamble. "Are you going to take it?" Marcus sighed. "I don't know yet. It's complicated." "Because you think it's charity?" The directness caught Marcus off guard. "Mom doesn't do charity. She says business is business." "It's not just that. It's—" Marcus struggled to articulate feelings deeply rooted in systemic inequities that an 11-year-old shouldn't have to understand. "Is it because you be working for a woman?" Elijah asked. "Some men don't like that. My dad didn't." "No, that's definitely not it." "Then is it because you're afraid?" The simple question landed like a body blow. Was he afraid? Afraid of stepping into a world that had always excluded him? Afraid of trying again after his dreams had been derailed once before? "Maybe a little," Marcus admitted. "When I started my new school," Elijah said quietly, "I was really scared. Everyone stared at me. Someone asked if I was a ghost." His voice strengthened. "But Mom says courage isn't not being scared. It's doing something even when you are scared." Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought, "You know what? You're right." Marcus took a deep breath. "Tell your mom I'll call her tomorrow." 1 year later, Marcus Johnson stood on a stage next to Diana Reed, cutting a ribbon on the first Reed Community Development Center. Behind them stood a renovated apartment building offering affordable housing to 30 families. The center itself would provide job training, childcare, and support services. As cameras flashed, Diana spoke into the microphone. "This project represents not just an investment in property, but in people, in potential." Marcus, now Director of Community Development for Reed Innovations, had overseen every aspect of the project. The engineering courses he'd once abandoned were now completed, paid for by the company's education program. His apartment in the building's management unit was spacious and modern, a far cry from his former home. In the front row sat Elijah, no longer the timid boy Marcus had first met, still dealing with albinism's challenges. He nevertheless carried himself with new confidence. The friendship between them had deepened into something like family. After the ceremony, as the three of them walked to Diana's car, Elijah asked, "Remember when those boys were bullying me in the park? When we first met?" Marcus nodded. "Hard to forget. Did you ever think we'd end up here?" Marcus exchanged a glance with Diana, who smiled warmly. "Not in my wildest dreams, buddy. Not in my wildest dreams." Diana's hand brushed against Marcus's briefly. Their relationship had evolved too slowly, cautiously, but with genuine affection. Professional boundaries maintained at work gave way to dinners and conversations in private. They were taking it slow, mindful of Elijah's feelings and the complexities of their different backgrounds. "Sometimes," Diana said thoughtfully, "the most important opportunities come disguised as simple moments of human decency." Marcus nodded, thinking of that day in the park. One small intervention, one moment of standing up for what was right, had altered the trajectory of multiple lives. As they drove away from the center, Elijah chattered about the astronomy program he wanted to start for neighborhood kids. Marcus listened, filled with a sense of belonging he'd once thought forever beyond his reach. Different paths, same journey. And for the first time in years, the future looked as bright as the stars Elijah so loved to watch.